Welcome into the Point After with Mitch Kaiser. I am your host, Mitch Kaiser. Hope you guys are doing well today. Happy Friday and happy Super Bowl week. Got my Drake May jersey on here, as you can see. Really excited to watch the game Sunday. Can't wait to see how Drake does. Gonna do on Monday. Gonna release a special bonus episode reviewing his performance in the Super Bowl. So gonna tap into the NFL game a little bit. I know it's a college football podcast, but given the media coverage around Super Bowl, want to talk about that game a little bit and review Drake's performance, as well as add the 20-minute interview I did with him a couple years ago in 2023 prior to his final season at North Carolina. So I was kind of where I grew to love him as a player and was just wowed by his on-field performance down in Chapel Hill. So excited to watch him play on Sunday. Hopefully he wins. Would make a better story for the narrative if he won. But either way, super proud of Drake's season and excited to watch that game on Sunday. Hoping I never thought I'd be rooting for the Patriots, but in a Super Bowl. But here I am out here sporting Drake May. So would love to see it. So that'll be the Monday episode. Going to do the Drake May interview at the back half of that recap show. And today, I got a solo show for you guys today. I'll keep this short and sweet, try to get you under 30 minutes here. I'm going to rank head coaches in college football currently. So we are going to rank, I'm going to give my top 10 head coaches in college football in the country right now. And, we're going to go 10 to 1. So we'll start at 10 here. And I'll kind of give you my reasons on why I think they're the top 10 best coaches in the NCAA right now. So let's get into it. Waste no time. Starting out at number 10 here, I am giving Dabo Swinney his flowers still. And this is more of a legacy ranking for the whole body of work of what Dabo has done at Clemson. This is a guy who has won 2 national championships. He's one of only 2 active head coaches who has won 2 national championships. The other is Kirby Smart. So, elite company to be in for Dabo Swinney right there. I don't care what he's done the past few seasons at Clemson. He actually made the college football playoff a season ago, so that's a pretty big accomplishment again. I know it's not as hard as it used to be, but for as many times as he's taken the Clemson Tigers to the college football playoff in the 4-team playoff, he deserves all this credit in the world. This is a program builder right there who builds the recruiting classes. Dabo's problem has been the NIL era and the transfer portal era of the past few seasons. We know he has not wanted to really dip into the transfer portal. We know he's kind of come out and been against the transfer portal. I know he was recently calling out Ole Miss's coaching staff for kind of tampering with their players. But overall, this is a guy who is 187-53 as a head coach. That's his win-loss record as a head coach in his career. I'll say it again, 187 wins, 53 losses. That's a 779 winning percentage. On top of 2 national championships, the 2016 with Deshaun Watson and the 2018 with Trevor Lawrence winning that one. So quite the career that he's put on. I know Clemson fans are probably starting to get a little fed up with him and at their university, but I really would hold off on making any moves or resorting to firing Dabo. I think that would be a very rash decision, and I truly believe if Clemson did that, they would not ever be as good as they are again. Dabo brought them into an elite program, and they've been here to stay ever since for the last decade. I don't think if you fire Dabo Swinney, you'll never be the elite program that you are right now. So I would argue it's probably in your best interest to keep him as your coach and just see what you can keep building through recruiting. And he did start to open up the transfer portal this season specifically. This past month, Clemson went out and pulled in more transfers than they ever have in the NIL era. So we'll see if it pays off for them. We'll see how it works because Dabo's going to have to adjust his coaching style, and he's going to have to adapt or die in this day and age of college football. But I could not make a top 10 head coaching list for college football and not include Dabo Swinney. 2-time national champion. Only other coach right now who has done that is Kirby Smart. So the other names on this list, some of them aren't even national champions. So I had to give Dabo some respect on that. Again, it's a whole full body of work ranking for what he has accomplished in his whole tenure at Clemson, and I just think the track record speaks for itself. I almost had him higher on this list, to be honest with you guys. I almost put him higher, and then I started adding a couple other names, and Dabo kept lowering, but I could not bring myself to drop him out of the top 10. I just think that's asinine for a coach who's won 2 national championships in the last decade. So yeah, Dabo Swinney, number 10, but he's hanging on by a thread. He is hanging on by a thread. I want to let Clemson fans know that, and he needs to prove it in this day and age of college football, the new era, which is the NIL portal era. He's got to get Clemson to a playoff. He's got to find a quarterback. He's got to find their next QB down there for the Tigers. And this was supposed to be the payoff year with Klubnik, and they were preseason number 4, and they went 7-6. It disappointed massively this season. So I know Clemson fans, he's feeling a lot of pressure now. Dabo's feeling a lot of pressure. I don't think he's on the hot seat. Not going to say his seat is hot yet, but I think if he has 1 or 2 more dud seasons at Clemson, you could start to see the temperature rise on his seat. So we'll see. But for now, I'm still a Dabo Swinney fan. I think you should really believe in a guy who's won 2 national championships in college football, because that's hard to do. And the way they did it a decade ago, the 2016 team with Deshaun that took down Alabama, like, that was still one of the most impressive title runs I've ever seen in the sport. So again, we're going to still give Dabo Swinney credit here, number 10. But there is a warning. He could fall off next season, or he could go higher. We'll see. All right, moving on. Number 9. Number 9, I have Steve Sarkisian, head coach for the University of Texas Longhorns. So Sark has been the coach now for a few years now. I want to say this is his 5th season upcoming, 4th or 5th season. Gosh, I can't keep track anymore. But either way, he is 94-55 in his tenure as head coach. That is a .631 winning percentage. Sark was not on my initial top 10 when I made this list now. And as I was kind of going through the names, I had a couple honorable mentions, and then I really boiled it down to like kind of some head-to-head matchups and playoff appearances as well. And I think what Sark has been able to do at Texas, although this season may have been a minor disappointment, he has still been very impressive nonetheless, and he has still overachieved, I would argue, within his first few years at Texas. Next year could be the payoff year where that narrative potentially changes if they don't make it back to the playoff, or if Arch doesn't become who we all think he could be. So that's kind of a warning on Sark for there. But this guy took 2 teams to the college football playoff. He took 1 with Quinn Ewers to the 4-team playoff, which was even harder to do, losing 1 game through the Big 12 and kind of rolling through the conference after that in what I would say was Quinn Ewers' best college season. And then last season, the up and down of Quinn Ewers versus Arch Manning kind of coming on strong, and then the QB, the quarterback battle, question mark, possibly the game against Georgia where it's kind of going back and forth. Ewers was throwing all the interceptions, and then he gets injured, and then he leads them back to the playoff. They were so close to beating Georgia in that game that went to overtime, if it outside of just a couple plays. So Sark has still done it, and they were also just as close to defeating Ohio State last season in the college football playoff semifinals, and what I thought was the best game of last college football season. So Sark is an offensive mastermind, though, and his play calling is genius. So I think he might be the best play caller in the country. So that is where I'm giving Sark the nod here. I do think he's one of the 10 best coaches in college football, but I'm not going to put him any higher than 9. He has the ability to rise even further next year, depending on what he can accomplish with Arch Manning and company in 2026. So there you go, Sark. I know they went 10-3 this year, which was a little bit of a disappointment, but still, like, winning 10 games and calling that a disappointing season is still impressive nonetheless. So I thought after the first few weeks where everyone was doubting Arch and kind of questioning the whole team, Sark really got him going and got his confidence back up, and he got that offense rolling again in the second half of the season. And Arch ended up having quietly a very good season towards the back half. So I just want that to be known. I think a lot of people kind of gave up on Arch midway through the season and didn't watch his second half, but This guy was lighting it up in the second half of the season. So I'm very excited to watch him next year. I have a feeling that Ohio State game in week 2 is going to be a lot higher scoring than last year's Ohio State game. So we'll see. But yeah, Steve Sarkisian, number 9 head coach in college football. Moving on to number 8. Number 8, I have got Lane Kiffin, the new coach of the LSU Tigers, former coach of Ole Miss Rebels. Apparently, he did not want to go into the playoff with them and wanted to jump ship and take another school to the playoff, potentially LSU next season with the top portal class that I've seen, in my opinion, with, you got Sam Leavitt, Jordan Seaton, Jace Brown, tons of stars coming in, wide receivers for days. And they're gonna have an elite offense next year. They got Caden Durham back, and I think Lane's offensive numbers speak for themselves, and kind of the numbers they put up in the points per game that Ole Miss had the past few seasons with Jackson Dart under center. I honestly think you can expect that with Sam Leavitt and the LSU Tigers next season. I have a prediction that they're going to lead the nation in points per game. I wouldn't be surprised at all, and I just think that's how special Leavitt is, and I think that's how good Lane is as an offensive mastermind. And we'll see what they can pull off. He has yet to win the big one, and again, we have yet to find out if he can win the national championship or even win a few playoff games, because he technically has not coached a team in the playoff yet since Pete Golding took over before he left. So yeah. Kiffin is 116-53 though in his career as a head coach in college football. That's a 686 winning percentage, 116 wins, 53 losses. So elite level stuff. There's some off-field stuff that comes with Lane that some fans don't always love. I think he's a hilarious guy. I think he's a funny dude. I can appreciate his character because I do think you need guys like that to make sports better. But in all seriousness, he is a very good coach. He is a very good offensive play caller, and I'm excited to see what he can do with LSU's offense and Sam Leavitt next season. The track record at Ole Miss speaks for itself, I think, and he maxed out that program, I would say, and I think that's ultimately why he left and why he felt the need to leave. I never understood it. I never agreed with it. I thought he should have kept building at Ole Miss and thought he could have gotten a statue there, but maybe he wants a statue in Baton Rouge. And LSU has more resources and more money, bigger stadium, better players to do it this season. So we'll see if he can ultimately get his final goal and win a national championship for LSU. Because he felt like he could not do that at Ole Miss. But Lane Kiffin, I think he's the 8th best coach in college football, and I'll have no problem putting him higher next season if he can lead LSU to the promised land. We'll see. So, all right, moving on. Number 7. Now, I want to give some context on this coach because I actually did not even have this guy in my top 10 when I made the list. And then I was looking at the names. I was kind of going through other programs and records and stuff, and I felt silly leaving this guy out when I looked at head-to-head coaching matchups in the SEC. I had to put Kalen DeBoer at number 7 here. Kalen DeBoer, head coach of the Alabama Crimson Tide, former head coach of the Washington Huskies, the head coach who led that school to the national championship in 2024 versus Michigan, and lost that game, but still led an undefeated school there, like Washington, with an elite group of offensive weapons they had, and Rome Odunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Pope, led by Michael Penix Jr. Kalen DeBoer is responsible for Michael Penix's ascension into a first-round draft pick as a quarterback. He is also responsible for Ty Simpson's ascension into a first-round draft pick. That can't go unnoticed, and he deserves all the credit in the world for that. He took Indiana, and I know Indiana, we obviously have new narratives around Indiana now, but 6 years ago, when he took Indiana into Ohio State and they almost defeated the Buckeyes with Michael Penix Jr. versus Justin Fields, that was an incredible game. And I don't think anybody even knew who DeBoer was back then. And then when you see him bring his quarterback to Washington and you see 2 seasons of leading one of the best offenses in the country, losing 3 games in 2 years there at Washington, how do you not put him in the top 10 for coaching, specifically top 7 here? I had to rank him above Sark and I had to rank him above Kiffin because I still think Alabama is better than those 2 programs in the SEC. And I would still take Bama over Texas or LSU as a coaching job right now. So people can say what they want about DeBoer. He's not Nick Saban, and I think that's why people dislike him. And Alabama fans probably don't like him because of that. And he's already lost 4 games in both seasons, which Nick Saban only did that once in Alabama in his first ever season there. So the standards are high. The expectations are higher than ever at Alabama. And I would argue that is the most pressured job in the country of all head college football coaches. So I think Kalen DeBoer is under the most pressure for that fan base to perform than any other fan base. Maybe Ryan Day at Ohio State, but that's a close conversation there. But I just think the pressure DeBoer is under, and I know he has not lived up to Alabama's specific standards, but his win percentage speaks for itself. He is 57-17 in his career as a head coach. That is a 770 winning percentage. And he has taken 2 schools to a college football playoff. Not 1, 2. For as much crap as people want to give Alabama this season and Ty Simpson, I thought he was great, man. 3,500 passing yards, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. QB2 in the draft. He's going to be a first-round pick. And he's still led them to the college football playoff. And they upset Oklahoma on the road. So there you go. I give him some credit for that. Leading 2 schools to college football playoff with 2 wins, 2 different wins, one on Washington, one at Bama. Again, he is probably disappointed by Alabama's expectations for him, but in terms of the rest of college football, I think every other school in the country would be thrilled to have Kalen DeBoer as their head coach. So that's all I'm saying. It won't shock me if DeBoer only lasts like 1 more season at Alabama, like 1 or 2 more seasons, and he either resigns or they fire him because they're just disappointed if he doesn't win a natty, which seems like unfair expectations. But again, that's following the ghost of Nick Saban. That's what you're going to get. That's the results you're going to get. So it's tough to follow the GOAT. I always said I never want to be the first guy to follow Nick Saban. I want to be the second guy. So like, let the first guy go do his thing, and then I want to follow up the second guy, not directly be Nick Saban's predecessor. But anyway, that's all I got on DeBoer. People can make fun of him, but I still think he's a damn good coach, and I think he's clearly a top 10 coach in college football, and I've got him at number 7. So, okay, moving on to number 6. Marcus Freeman, head coach of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So, love Marcus Freeman, love his play style, love his tenacity, love his attitude, and I love that he's a player's coach. This guy is 43-12 in his career as a coach. That is a 782 winning percentage, just a little bit above Kalen DeBoer. So, we're giving Marcus Freeman gets the nod here for taking Notre Dame to the college football national championship game last season, although they lost to Ohio State. I do think they are shaping up to have their best season under Marcus Freeman yet next year. This is the most talent he's had in South Bend since he's got there, and I know that might be crazy to say after a team made the championship. I think they have a chance to win the championship next year. Straight up. CJ Carr, coming back, one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's going to be a Heisman candidate. You got Leonard Moore, the best cornerback in the country, like Sauce Gardner levels of good, probably a future top 10 pick. He's going to have arguably the best defense in college football with arguably one of the best quarterbacks. So that right there is a recipe for success. New running backs stepping up. Obviously, Price and Love were off to the NFL. And I'm not going to make this a Notre Dame podcast for their season, but I just think what Freeman has done there in his brief tenure is unreal. And like, I never thought they would get to the championship game a season ago, and the fact that they did was remarkable. And I had him in my playoff this season. I thought the committee ultimately made the right decision, but I still wouldn't have argued if they made it in, and I do think they could have won a game or two. So he's got this program in the top 5 programs in college football for the past few seasons. It's just a matter of winning the big game now, winning the whole thing. So we'll see if Freeman can do it, but I think this guy is one of the best coaches in college football, and he also hired one of my best friends, Anthony Tresh. Want to shout out him real quick on this. Tresh is the genius behind the fourth down play calls, the genius behind the madness there. So shout out Anthony Tresh, Marcus Freeman's right-hand man, one of his assistant coaches, former PFF legend Anthony Tresh, and great friend of mine. So love you, Tresh, and wish you all the best luck next season. So, all right, that's all I got on Marcus Freeman. Moving on, number 5. So this was tough because I kind of flip-flopped these two guys a couple times, and I went back and forth, and I ultimately gave the nod to a little more recency bias, even though, and a head-to-head matchup win as well, although his winning percentage as a head coach is a little lower. That is Mario Cristobal, the head coach of the Miami Hurricanes. After taking this team to the national championship and almost winning, literally almost pulling off the upset against Indiana, I got to give him a nod and put him in the top 5 coaches right now. 97-79 as a starter, or not as a starter, as a head coach, which is only a 551 winning percentage. I know that's lowest on this list. However, his recent success at Miami has been amazing. And I think what he has turned them into, the juggernaut he's turned them into, they are here to stay. He builds his team through the trenches. He's a defensive first kind of guy. And the O-lines and D-lines that he's built at Miami are NFL lines on both sides of the ball. That is here to stay. That type of trench play at Miami is not going anywhere. And you got Malachi Toney coming back. You got Mark Fletcher coming back. And you got Darian Mensah coming in for the portal. That's 3 superstar quarterbacks in the portal back-to-back. Cam Ward, Carson Beck, Darian Mensah. His ability to get superstar quarterbacks in the portal is second to none. His portal additions in general have been second to none. And the fact that they almost beat Indiana, the run they just went on, beating A&M on the road, beating Ohio State, and then beating Ole Miss in what was one of the best games ever. Like, I had to give Cristobal the nod here. I had to put him in the top 5. So we'll see if he can win the whole thing, though. Again, that's kind of the big question. He was 40 yards away. He was a Carson Beck interception away from winning the national championship. But I'm a big fan of Mario Cristobal and just kind of the type of coach he is, winning at the line of scrimmage, building from the inside out. That's how I would build a team personally. I would always focus on getting the quarterback last, and that is what he has done the last 3 years. This one might be the best one of them all, which I'm not going to put him over Cam Ward yet, but like Darian Mensah's tools are Cam Ward-like. And if you haven't watched this kid play, go look at his Duke highlights because he is electric. He has a phenomenal arm strength. He's going to tear it up in the ACC next year. I would just keep an eye out for Mensah and what they can accomplish. But yeah, a lot of respect for Mario Cristobal and what he did this season, and so I had to throw him in the top 5. But that's all I got on that. All right, number 4. Now, this might be a controversial name for a couple guys, but he's my favorite coach in college football, and if I could play for one coach in the country, it would be this guy, and that is Dan Lanning, head coach of the University of Oregon, the Oregon Ducks. Dan Lanning, former defensive coordinator at Georgia under Kirby Smart. We're going to find out Kirby Smart's coaching tree in a few years, and it's going to turn into like Nick Saban's coaching tree. That was the best hire in the country that season when Lanning left Georgia for Oregon. It was like overnight he made them an elite program. Like, it literally happened overnight, it felt like. And when he gets Dylan Gabriel over, and then they become the 1 seed in the college football playoff, going undefeated in the regular season. And then obviously what happened this season with Dante Moore and getting him back. Lanning is 48-8 in his career as a starter, I keep saying starter. In his career as a head coach, 48-8, that is 857 winning percentage. It's just phenomenal stuff. And I know Phil Knight wants to win a national championship badly, and that is the only final test for Oregon and for Dan Lanning specifically. So that's the one blemish on Dan Lanning's resume has been big games. He has failed in the 2 biggest games he's coached at Oregon and lost by over 30 points in both. So the Ohio State game last year where it was like 42-21, and then this year the Indiana game, the semifinal, 56-22. You cannot get your doors blown off like that in playoff games. You can't get walked off the field like that. Like, you got to show up, you got to compete, and you got to play a full 60-minute game and be in the thick of it. You can't lay an egg like that 2 years in a row. So otherwise, there will be narratives that start to come out in the future if that keeps happening to Oregon and specifically to Dan Lanning. But like I said, this guy's a tremendous motivator, just a badass head coach, just a guy you really want to play for and be around, and just kind of his personality and his intensity and his fight and his whole attitude and just persona, just being a player's coach. So like I said, if I could play for one coach, it'd be Dan Lanning at Oregon, but there is a big game thing, quote unquote, big game label around him now if he cannot win the big one next year. Not even win it, like just not get blown out, because that's kind of been two times in a row now. And that is preparedness. Like, that is showing up ready to play. That is coaching. That is being ready to go, focus, and just overall preparation. So that's kind of Dan Lanning's final step in his evolution, is winning a national championship. And if he can lead the Ducks to their first ever national championship, because he will be a legend in Eugene forever. I think he already is one, but he'll be even more of a legend if he can pull that off for Phil Knight. So we'll see. All right, moving on to the final three, top three head coaches in college football now. I'm sure you guys have narrowed it down here, and you probably know what three I'm going to name, just maybe not the order. So number three, I had to give this guy the slight edge above Dan Lanning, specifically for that head-to-head matchup in the college football playoff. And he also won a national championship last year. That is Ohio State head coach Ryan Day. Ryan Day has done nothing but win at Ohio State since he took over for Urban Meyer, which everyone wins at Ohio State. That's not like a breaking news for winning football games. I swear they've lost like 20 total games since I've been alive, and I'm almost 30. So it's crazy. But either way, Day has lost 12 games in, I want to say, like 11 seasons at Ohio State. So that's ridiculous right there. 82-12, 872 winning percentage, which is second on this list. And he has one national championship to show for it. That was the only question mark about Ryan Day last season. And I do truly think he would have gotten fired if they didn't win that championship, or if they laid an egg in the first round against Tennessee or Oregon or whatever. I do think he would have been fired from Ohio State had he not beaten Notre Dame in the national championship last year. And that's maybe like insane thing to say. Like, I know like Buckeye fans like hold their team and their standards to the highest above any other school in the country, and they demand greatness every single season and don't settle for less. And I get it. But I thought he shut everyone up. Honestly, I thought he proved himself. I thought Day kind of made a name for himself, and thought he went on a badass run. I gotta be honest. And I could see him. So I think Ryan Day will eventually step down himself from Ohio State, and I see that coming in a few years from now. And I'm not like, speculating anything or hearing anything, but I've always said I thought he would kind of leave on his own just because of like the optics of how he's viewed amongst their fan base still. Even though he won a title last year, I still don't think Buckeye fans really love Day. And something about him I just think they're still not a fan of for whatever reason. I mean, I don't really understand it, but there's a lot of people who were disappointed they lost this year to Miami and thought that was a bad loss on his resume. And, I know we all want to win, and we expect greatness, and we demand it, like I said. And, I just think after winning last season, I almost think you get a pass as a defending champs, and it's like, it's hard to go back to back. And I understand the talent he had on this team and the talent he has on every team, but I think Ryan Day is a good coach. I think he's a really smart offensive play caller. I think he needs to take over play calling like full time for the Buckeye offense next season. And, because I think it's a lot better when he does it. So we'll see. I don't mind Ryan Day, though. I think he's a fine coach. All right, number two, moving on. 1 and 2 is tough because recency bias will probably have this guy at number 1, but there's still one coach I can't have. There's still one coach particular who's the best coach in college football to me, and it's not debatable. I've got Curt Cignetti at number 2. So Cignetti, Indiana Hoosiers coach, just led them to their first national championship in school history, the greatest turnaround in sports history, one of the greatest underdog stories in sports history. We all know what just happened, the run they went on, back-to-back years leading Indiana of all schools to college football playoff. Cignetti is 46-6 in his career as a head coach. That is an .885 winning percentage, which is the highest amongst the 10 coaches on this list. Again, 1 national championship, going for another next year, 2 playoff berths, multiple playoff wins, multiple blowouts, 2 quarterbacks who received Heisman votes, 1 who won a Heisman, 1 who's about to be a number 1 pick for the Raiders in Mendoza. Can't say enough about Cignetti, man. And just, I'm not arguing if people have him first on this list. If you want to throw him first, I'm not going to argue with you on it because he's that good of a coach. And just, I don't even know if you can compare what he did at Indiana to any other coaching job in any sport. Like, I'm trying to think of what it could be, but it's uncomparable to anything. So he may end up first on this list next year. He may, or when it's all said and done or whatever, like he may very well end up number 1 as the best head coach in college football. I had to keep him at 2 because of the 1 natty versus this next coach who has 2. That is Kirby Smart, my number 1 coach in all of college football, head coach at the University of Georgia. Kirby Smart, Georgia Bulldogs, head coach with a record of 117-21. Let me say that again. 117 wins, 21 losses. As an .848 winning percentage for Kirby Smart with 2 national championships at Georgia. They went back-to-back in 2021 and 2022 with Stetson Bennett as the quarterback. An all-time run for Kirby Smart and what he's done at Georgia. I don't even think he's 50 yet. He's like 48 years old. So, like, he's going to be doing this for another 3 decades. Like, potentially 30. We might potentially have to deal with Kirby Smart at Georgia for 30 more years. Imagine 30 more years of Kirby Smart at Georgia and how many national championships he might have then. How many wins. Imagine what his winning record will be by then. Like, if they wanted to give him a lifetime contract and just be like, Kirby, you can do this forever, he will undoubtedly get a statue at UGA when it's all said and done. He finally got over the Alabama hump this year. That was my one blemish on Kirby's resume that I could not give him, that I never could pick Georgia to beat Alabama simply because of the dark cloud hanging over them. But now he finally got over it. 28-7 in the SEC championship game. They whooped them. I'm finally giving Kirby the nod over Alabama. Getting over that hump might have been bigger than the national championship hump, honestly, which it happened in the same game back in 2021. But what he's been able to do since is just astonishing. I've said it a couple podcasts ago. I don't remember the exact numbers, but like since 2020, this guy has lost like 6 total games and has like not lost to a non-SEC opponent other than Notre Dame in that playoff game a season ago. Like if you go look it up, before 2020 they lost a couple non-SEC games, but since that he has not lost a non-conference regular season game, which is just astonishing. So I can't put anyone above Kirby Smart yet. Curt Cignetti, if you win a natty next year and repeat, we'll have a different conversation and we might have to re-rank the two. But for me, Kirby Smart is still the best coach in all of college football right now at Georgia, and he's not slowing down anytime soon. Like I said, he's going to be doing this for at least 20 more years there, and probably will win multiple national championships for UGA. So we'll see where he ends up on the all-time coaching list, but he's number 1 in my book for current head coaches in college football. And yeah, that's all I got. Let me recap the 10 here for you today, and I'll get you guys out of here. But all right, number 10, I've got Dabo Swinney, head coach at Clemson. Number 9, I've got Steve Sarkisian, head coach at Texas. Number 8, I've got Lane Kiffin, head coach at LSU. Number 7 is Kalen DeBoer, head coach at Alabama. Number 6 is Marcus Freeman, head coach at Notre Dame. Number 5, Mario Cristobal, head coach at Miami. Number 4, Dan Lanning, head coach at Oregon. Number 3, Ryan Day, head coach at Ohio State. Number 2, Curt Cignetti, head coach at Indiana. And number 1, Kirby Smart, head coach at Georgia. That's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe to the Point After below. Again, this I'm going to do a Super Bowl recap show on Monday, so keep your eyes out for that with the Drake May interview attached as well at the back half of that show. So that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you enjoy the Super Bowl on Sunday. Again, go! Can't believe I'm saying go Patriots, but mostly go Drake May. Hope he gets it done, gets a big win. And yeah, I will see you guys Monday. Enjoy the game and have a great rest of your weekend.